Turning now to the Capitol chaos, the National Guard is ready to mobilize here in Connecticut over the coming days, all in response to the threat of armed protest. Connecticut has a history of peaceful protests, but Channel 3 Eyewitness News reporter Mike Savino spoke with one expert who is worried about an increased risk of violence this time around.
Right-wing extremists have been openly calling for violence and even the overthrow of the government, and those groups have a presence even right here in Connecticut.
Many of these groups are openly calling for a revolution in the United States.
Police continue to get ready for armed protest, including an increased police presence outside the Capitol. Security fencing has also been moved into place after an FBI warning of armed protests at all 50 state capitals ahead of Wednesday's presidential inauguration. Protests have remained peaceful in Connecticut, but officials are preparing for the worst after last Wednesday's riot at the Capitol.
The degree in the extent and the danger is much higher with right-wing extremism.
Jeffrey Treisman is a national security professor at the University of New Haven and a former advisory to the Iraqi State Department. While protests can always mean friction between demonstrators and police, Treisman says these protests could attract groups that want to overthrow the government.
One thing to keep in mind, however, is that many of these groups openly call for civil war.
State police are taking extra precautions, including increased security for state and federal buildings, as well as lawmakers and the governor. Public Safety Executive Assistant Brian Foley saying today, "We have concerns around the entire state." We spoke with federal and local law enforcement regarding those specific concerns. Governor Ned Lamont urging people to stay away from the Capitol.
We don't want protesters coming out right now. We certainly don't want people counter demonstrations coming. We don't want people rubbernecking, just coming out to see what's happening.
The Connecticut National Guard announced today it's also giving support, saying the Connecticut National Guard is committed to the protection of life, property, and the constitutional right to peaceful protest.
They openly share doctrines, they openly share manuals on how to attack the United States government.
Connecticut has not recently seen anything like the riots at the U.S. Capitol last week or the armed protesters who have stormed other state capitals in recent months. But Treisman says militias and right-wing groups like Patriot Front have presence in Connecticut.
There is certainly an active presence of right-wing extremism here in Connecticut. And we've actually seen a number of right-wing hate crimes in Connecticut.
Treisman says these groups also include a lot of former military and law enforcement who are familiar with normal security measures. This creates another challenge for police. From the Capitol, Mike Savino, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.